Hi, I'm the Internet Shimmergloom. You might remember me from other Fancy Lad tutorial videos such as How to Win a Tournament Without Playing a Game, and Deployment, Why? And of course everyone's favorite, Game 7, Why am I the only one here? And now I'm happy to present our newest video, The Fancy Lad's Guide to Table Flipping. First, let's start with a history lesson about table flipping. Table flipping traces its origins back to King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Over the centuries, table flipping continued to flourish until it found its way to the New World and our founding fathers. Today, table flipping has taken exciting new forms, such as its arcade game. But seriously, why doesn't every arcade have this game? So you're probably asking yourself, well, I know the history of table flipping, but how do I do this in a game of Warhammer? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's look at a few ways you can flip a table when you're playing Warhammer. And of course, this doesn't just apply to Warhammer. You can, flip a table in any kind of wargaming, or even like D&D, Magic, Meatloaf Wednesdays. The list goes on and on. So let's start with one for beginners. This is the old standard two-hander table flip with the variant, the Slowhand. Now for the two-hand, you want to make sure you get good grip underneath the table and have your thumbs over the table so you don't put too much stress on your wrist. And now you just flip the table into your opponent's face. For the variant, you slowly lift the table up, let the model slide toward your opponent, then you flip it into their face. Our next type is like what we like to call the Flippin' the Bird. Now for this one, it's important to have good upper body strength since you'll be flipping the table with just one hand while you're flipping the bird to your opponent with the second hand. Next up we have the Bloody Flip, also known as Talking Good, Flipping Better. Now this is one when you're flipping the table but you're also British. And you can tell from this picture here that he's British because he's flipping on the wrong side of the table. Next up we have one we like to call the Invisible Hand of the Market. This table flipping is when you see two people playing, they're having a good time, and you just slyly walk by the table, flip it from the edge. They'll never know what happened. Next up we have one when we're getting to the more advanced stages of table flipping. This one's called And the Flowers Are Still Standing. This one of course really only works if you're using a battle mat and not a battle board. So basically what you want to do is really take good firm grip of the battle map and then pull it right out from under all the models. If any models are still standing, you've won. Next one we like to call the Macho Man, and you do get bonus points if you're able to do the Macho Man voice while you're doing this. Is your opponent taking too long to make an important decision, and you just feel like you just want to flip the table? Well, for the Macho Man, you get a friend to come behind him, hit him in the back of the head with a folding chair, and then when they're laying on the ground crying, you just flip the table on top of them. Next up, we have the old dump and flip. We actually couldn't get pictures of this past the sensors. Maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe let's just skip this one. Forget all about this one. Let's move on to the Game 5 flip of a 6-game tournament. So things haven't been going your way, but it's Game 5. You've lost. So you triumphantly flip the table. Only when you're being escorted out of the store, you realize it's a 6-game tournament. This one we like to call the War of the Rings. Now for this one, you're table flipping and you look around and you realize there's nobody there. Just like when you're playing War of the Rings. This is the rarely seen table flip called the T-bow. This one only works when you're playing against Bretonia. So for this one, when your opponent stops to pray and gives you the first turn so they can get the 5-up ward, you just flip the table on them. And now we come to our last variation of the table flip, one we call the Fancy Lad. As a Fancy Lad, we do not endorse table flipping at all. Instead, we greet our opponent after a game with a hearty handshake for a game well done, followed by a quick sucker punch to the stomach. So we hope you've enjoyed our different ways to table flip, but remember, the best way to table flip is to never table flip.